Season 1 of the EsportsTV Starcraft2 Starleague for 2015. I'm Wolf. With me is Moonglade. And we just saw the fastest series we've ever seen in the SSL, and the only series we've ever seen in the SSL.
Yeah, it could be the fastest series we've seen in, maybe not in all of this year of StarCraft, but it was definitely one of the faster ones, that's for sure. Very unfortunate build order losses there for Sulky in his first two games. In Game 3, just overcommitting a little too much to Ling Bane when he saw a small opening there with no gas income from Rogue after that initial Zergling speed. But he had a great follow-up. He had a great block for the attack. And
good block, a lot of queens. Everything was just ready for that attack.
Did some good some counterattacking, and from there, I mean, he was just miles ahead, and some easy games there for Rogue, fortunately enough.
Yeah, I'm sad we didn't get to hear from Sulky. Actually, he's the one I wanted to have the interview with.
Well,
I wanted to see what he was thinking. But
yeah, man, I didn't think he wants to talk to anyone for a while after that series.
No, definitely not.
But enough of that series, Wolf. We have the next one coming up, and it should take a little longer because it is a TVP.
Yeah, 2 TVPs actually coming up next for you guys. So definitely going to have to shift gears, going into a completely different matchup here. And, we got some old players making comebacks. We got Cure, again, as a Terran player in here.
Yeah.
How do you feel about his chances?
Well, statistically, his matchup TVP is his weakest by far, which is going to be pretty scary. But, I mean, when looking at Classic, he has not been having the best run against Terrans in recent times. So I feel like it's going to be a more of a level playing field than we think when we do look at Classic, because he's just kind of really out of form in this matchup. We saw him go down in the Hot 6 Cup to Sky High. It was Sky High and Flash, actually, and to knock him out. So, yeah, not the best run. And obviously in BlizzCon, he did lose to MMA.
Yeah, he dropped out in the round of 32 at Code S for Season 3. He made it to the round of 4 in the Kespa Cup. And did pretty well at BlizzCon for himself. But here in Korea in recent times, hasn't been looking as strong, especially in that recent performance, like you said, at the Hot 6 Cup.
Yeah, he lost to Ryung in the Code S qualifier as well. Yeah, so he's had nothing but bad luck against Terran.
Yeah, that's pretty rough, man.
Yeah.
Good to see Ryung at least able to take games off Classic, though. That's pretty impressive. And here's Cure. This guy did incredibly well in his last run through the GSL, actually getting in the round of 4, one win away from actually being in the grand finals to face off against Sue.
Yeah, very impressive. And I mean, he hasn't had the worst results as of late. He did defeat Yonghua in 2 best-of-3s to qualify for the SSL.
Yeah.
So that is something. That is a lot better than what Classic's been doing recently. So just giving a little idea about how these players are playing in recent times. It's going to be pretty even, I think.
He got to have a little bit of overseas experience at Red Bull as well.
Yeah,
so
that's
really
true.
happy for him for that, just to get more exposure. This guy is really underrated, and for him to take a win here would not be out of the question. Now, we have bans here. Ban on Nimbus for Classic for obvious reasons. Doesn't want to deal with that drop play. And the Foxtrot Labs ban for Cure is not weird. Just doesn't really want to play on the map, I guess. I mean, it's not really, in my opinion, a map that really favors Protoss massively over Terran. But he may have some stylistic reason why he doesn't like to play on the map.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's a bit of a wonky map, a bit of a strange layout. Obviously, it can be 2 different kinds of layouts depending on the spawns. But yeah, I'm not too surprised by that choice from Cure. And we do see King Sejong as the last map. Very, very common map for Protoss to do pretty well on against Terran in the past. But Terran have been kind of figuring things out a little bit more on that map with their drop play and a lot more biomine drops more than anything else.
Just looking at the first 2 map picks, Deadwing and Catalana, I feel like that was a Classic pick and then a Cure pick for sure, man.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
So Classic will be pretty happy to get this thing started here on Deadwing. It's a good map for late game Protoss, and that's what Classic loves in this matchup. Wants to have all that AoE damage, the Colossi and the Storms.
Yeah, it should be a pretty good map. Definitely a lot more time to prepare and get to that late game army.
Indeed.
Very easy to hold 4 bases as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go into game number 1, Classic versus Cure here at the SSL. In blue to the bottom left. Excuse me. In red to the top right. For SKT, it's Classic. Today is day 1. There will always be these sort of things happening. There he is.
There he is.
And his opponent for Jin Air Green Wings, it's Cure. The bottom left, Terran. just given recent results, I want to say I favor Cure here slightly, to be honest.
I want to. I mean, defeating Yonghua twice in two best of threes is pretty impressive, but it is only one player, and maybe Yonghua was not having a great day that day. We don't know for sure. That's the only really solid statistic we had for Cure going into this. And obviously Classic had a lot more success in recent times, has proven himself time and time again throughout the year, but seems to have a bit of a lull, especially in this matchup in recent times, which is, I feel like it's going to be a pretty level playing field. I think we're going to see some great games.
Notice that Classic had Symbol and Super in his qualification group. Cure beating Nado. Not sure who that is, actually. Well, that means me too in Korean.
Nado.
And beating Yonghua twice, like you said. But losing to Deer.
Yeah, he did lose to Deer. That's something I didn't mention, actually.
He lost to Deer in the winners finals, and then, of course, fell down to face Yonghua, I believe.
For probably a second time, I guess.
So we're going to see him take a gas here. Almost 100% on this map. Just a Reaper expand. Get a good scout off on what Classic is doing. Identify where his pylons are. Just make sure he's not doing anything too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you can see pretty extreme proxies on this map. Obviously, it's a much bigger map, though, so maybe less likely.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of places to hide things.
Yeah, there is a lot of places. So a Reaper would do a lot of work and obviously get a great scout on in the main base. Give you a lot of map control early on. Find probes and, yeah, find proxies. Dare there be any.
Of course, Classic is a GSL champion. He has played long series before. He knows how to not get fatigued in a big, long best-of-5 like this. Keep in mind that Cure just recently having a very epic battle with Innovation and TVT, narrowly not making it to the GSL finals, knows what those long series are all about, too.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to see greedy play from both. No surprise there, because it is Deadwing, it is a massive map, and it is cross map. Yep. So, very, very comfortable for both players. Obviously, would be vertical, cannot be horizontal.
Even on this map, you occasionally see a Nexus first in this matchup. So if that were to be the case, the Reaper could do so much damage.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that. But
as
Classic's
it is,
playing
though,
it safe. He's playing it safe.
He's got that Mothership core out already before the Reaper even arrives. Just because it's cross spawns, it takes so long to get across the map. And he should be able to make sure this Reaper doesn't do any damage. Already the Reaper scouts the total and complete opening, and we'll even see that final pylon, which lets him know exactly where he's going to want to pop back in later to check for tech.
Yeah, very nicely done there. Should survive. So nice little juking there. I think a little bit of a mistake there on Classic's Mothership core, not going straight down, but trying to follow the Reaper a little too much.
Yeah, had the Reaper decided to do on that little lip, he would have probably got the kill on it. So a good choice there by Cure as well to avoid that double jump. Already getting up to almost full health. Now, let's see what tech it's going to be. It's going to be a robotics, and he puts it actually not where the pylon is, so it's much less likely to be scouted by this Reaper.
Not a bad choice at all. In front of that little SimCity he made up the top to stop the Reaper doing a run by, but still going to get in. We'll see how far he commits with this Reaper.
I love that pylon placement because he knows that's the only second place the Reaper could actually check, so he's going to be able to see the Reaper coming in advance every time. And it looks like we're going to have a Reactored Hellion build coming out here from Cure meanwhile.
Okay.
And that SimCity that we see in the main base from Classic is really going to come in handy in defending this.
Yeah.
He's got a nice tight wall right around his mineral lines. The Hellions aren't really going to be able to run around that. Going to make this attack a little bit more difficult to execute. Widowmine coming out now as well.
Yeah, nice, interesting build there. Obviously, Hellion's going to kind of take map control and trying to poke where they can for now. Have to wait and see what else he's got planned for them. I mean, adding those Widowmines is also going to help really set up in the mid game. Be very defensive.
You know what's interesting about this is he doesn't have a starport to drop, so he's really...
Yeah, that's probably the most interesting thing about this is like it's going Hellion Reaper into Widowmine with no starport, just an extra Rax. So it's going to be a very fast stim timing at the very least, because he did start upgrading stim instantly.
I think I understand this now. I think it's just a scout. He's just like, I'm going to force my way in here.
That is the most expensive scout I have ever seen.
It's very expensive, but he Hail Married that, man. He was like, well, I'm going to see what's going on in here.
He scouted the Robo. I mean, that's great and all, but it's super standard. It's like, it's going to do well against Widowmines. Obviously, the Widowmines probably made to kind of defend against any sort of Oracle play more than anything else, is my guess, considering where they are. They are in the mineral patches.
Yeah. And his starport comes up late, so it's not really an aggressive build so much as a aggressive scout. If he gets in there and maybe he finds a window, he could do some damage.
I
That
feel
was a
like-
bit strange.
I feel like he must have been looking for like some probe kills, but Classic was just too much in position because scouting like that, you'd rather just
Scan.
Scan.
You'd rather just scan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to cost you some mineral income, but that was an interesting choice. I almost wonder. I don't understand that one, Mule.
Let's not try to think about it too much, Wolf, because we will lose our minds.
We will.
Same time, though, we do see Classic kind of setting up for that mid game, getting that Twilight and Robotics Bay, and a Forge. So you know what? He's just going for upgrades. He's going into that Colossi, probably into Charge Lot, most likely. I think at this point doesn't really need to get blinked that fast. Kind of the blink timing has passed. I feel at this point there's no real point in trying to keep him contained because Stim is finished already.
Stim is done quite quickly here. And he's going to go ahead and... Well, looks like he was considering moving out there. Getting all his units together, perhaps prepping for a drop. Yeah, there comes out the first 2 medevacs. Sending them over ASAP. Going to do 2 Widow Mines in 1 drop. Probably the other medevac going to load up some bio. As you can see there on the mini-map. Cannons are going up. He's getting the armor. His first Colossus is about to pop out as well. And he's got a decent Stalker Force, and he does get that later blink.
Yeah.
Just for extra safety, I suppose, because he knows it was an early factory build, so maybe he was expecting a little bit more heavy drop play. And these cannons, too, just show that he really wants to be completely prepared against this early aggression.
It's not a bad choice at all, considering how we are seeing Terrans play this matchup these days with a lot of bio, a lot of mines, going very, very late into the Vikings, more than anything else. It does make sense that he would get that cannon, and Blink is not a bad choice at all either.
Nexus cannon goes down at the natural, but the main base might pick up a pylon, not even able to do that. And this medevac obviously not going to be able to get anything done with 2 cannons, 1 on the Nexus and 1 on the ground, easily deterring that. Not only doing damage, but also providing detection for those Widow Mines. He's not going to be able to get a single point of damage done. Medevac here is spotted by the Observer.
Nice scan there. And Classic really playing to the map strength. Obviously, it's a lot easier to... It's a lot of airspace, but you can still defend 3 bases pretty easily, especially getting that little pocket one down there before going for the further away 4th base.
Yeah. Well, worker count is actually pretty similar here, and that's a good sign for a Terran player is to be able to stay pretty even with the Protoss, because Chrono Boost obviously allows you to build a lot more probes. But it does show that Classic is spending a lot of chrono on his upgrades, including his armor, which is already complete here. And with Blink nearly finishing, that medevac needs to stay away.
Yeah, looking for an opening, but at the same time, it is keeping the Stalkers in the main base while this Bio Army moves up. Against 2 Colossus like that, with enough Zealots and some Sentries to kind of help zone out, you should be fine against any sort of pressure for now.
3rd base now being made into an orbital. The SCVs are transferring over. Those gases are queued up as well. Armory is coming up now as well, so everyone's kind of settling in here with the upgrades, just playing through this mid-game. A big chunk of units out here for Cure, but he knows the Colossus count is so scary, it's even to his Viking count, that engaging underneath this, like you said, with those Zealots and with the Sentries, is just likely to end in disaster. So he's just poking, posturing, but unlikely to commit.
We have seen crazier stuff there, like, for instance, Marine King probably would have committed to that already.
Yeah, he would have.
Or Mario, and tried to snipe those Colossi. And they are pretty snipeable, granted, there is a lot of Zealots, but there's only a couple of Sentries, and if he's not on point with his force fields, he can lose them very quickly. That is a lot of Marauders.
Now, the cool thing about this this opening for Classic, how he decided to take this 3rd base that's on the low ground rather than the high ground, is as Colossi can actually walk from his main base right down to the 3rd base super easy. So he can defend against drops with his Colossi in both ways, and I really like that choice. Just pop right back into the main.
Yeah, very strong position. Great map for going to that mid to late game as Protoss. Very, very easy to defend, as we've seen so far. There's no way in.
Cure with a pretty significant lead in workers. He has not missed a beat with his SCV production, and Classic is spending a lot more chrono boost on his upgrades. He's going to get that 2-2 very, very quickly. Charge as well. Blink been done for a long time here. Okay, drop over here to distract while he postures, heading towards the natural. Big Stim going to pick off that pylon. But again, tough to engage against this many Colossi with this army here. Even with the Marauder count you were talking about earlier, looks like Cure's not got that Marine King confidence to actually just kind of YOLO it.
I think that's just simply too much at this point as well. Classic's kind of settled himself in deep, and finding a way to get in like that and snipe the Colossi, I don't think it's going to happen.
Again, I just want to keep pointing out the Chrono Boost on these forges is insane. He's already almost halfway done. Actually, as I was saying that, he's like already past halfway done with his 2-2 upgrades. And if he just starts 3-3 right after that, as well as get his Templar Archives up, he is going to be in a great position for the late game. Get his Storm out, get those Archons out, and oh, look at this, a big blink forward, picking off a medevac. Almost getting 2 there.
Charge also finishes something to note. It's going to make his army twice as powerful, man. So many charge lots to kind of buffer for everything else.
Especially with a Marauder heavy army like this, that's so important to actually have those out there to block and tank so the Marauders can't rush down your Colossi. Viking count is really healthy now, though. 14 to 4 Colossi. So if he gets a good position on those Colossi, this fight could go in his favor. That 2-2 is about to finish for Classic right now. I'm not sure if he really wants to commit in here. That is Cure.
Yeah, Curious is still a while away as well, so he will be... Well, his +2 attack is almost ready. But still, it's going to be a hard fight. But yeah, as you were saying, that is a very, very healthy Viking count.
All right, Nexus Cannon goes down. Guardian Shield goes up. Vikings tanking a lot of damage here. Going to kill a Colossus, actually get 2 Colossi. And the Charged Zealots coming out the front. They've got good upgrades, but he should not be engaging this.
He should not be. There's a very, very awkward fight there with the Zealots.
I think he was overconfident with the Vikings being picked off like that, but they still got what they needed. They still got those Colossi.
They really did, but they all got eliminated, and there's no way for Kua to kind of find a way in now that there's Archons as well as Charge is finished, as well as that upgrade advantage.
Yeah, I'm scared for just the sheer fact that his Colossus count was reset there, and there are ghosts on the map. So he can't continue the attack, but a follow-up attack could be strong. And Classic is also not getting both of his upgrades right now, so you can see Cure is staying pretty competitive with his +3. He's timed that out really nicely.
I think pulling the boys wouldn't be a bad idea either at this point, considering it did reset that Colossi count.
He's got tons of ghosts.
He's got tons of ghosts. He can get rid of those Archons very, very quickly. He can obviously get rid of all the shields and everything else. Not a bad decision to do it if he chooses to.
Well, looks like playing for the late game instead. Both players, in fact. 4th base coming up here for Classic, even adding further cannons to his 3rd base. Raising his hands, actually. We're probably going to have a pause here. In fact, he pauses as raising his hands. So let's just slowly and calmly figure out what's going on here.
You know what? It was a pretty intense match. Maybe he just needed a break.
It's possible. I mean, that was a pretty intense situation with that engagement. So let's talk about that a little bit more. The Vikings just flew in.
Yeah, they did.
And he was like, oh, I don't think he's going to commit with the Vikings, but he really did. So the Colossi weren't pulled back quickly enough. And he focused all those Vikings down with his Stalkers, tried to get the Archon in there, but it was kind of a trade.
That blink forward from the Stalkers was also pretty awkward, considering the Vikings were flying that way, and they blinked past them into the bio, which I'm like, is he trying to engage the bio and just ignore the Vikings or something? But like, then he started moving them back and starting picking them up. So I feel like the bit of mismicro from Classic could have maybe saved 1 or 2 Colossi while that was all happening, but instead ended up losing them all.
And what happened, too, in that fight was he actually engaged with his Zealots. While he started pulling his Colossi back, his Zealots and Stalkers engaged the bio. Yeah. And the Vikings all went down, but so did his Colossi. The bio got the better trade on the ground, and so he had to pull back. He took a huge supply deficit there and lost a lot of his expensive units. But he's got Archons coming in. Storm, I believe, is actually on the way, if not completed already.
Yeah, it must be almost complete, if not already. We didn't get a view of that while the fight was going on. But yeah. I feel like the Archons definitely made the Terran kind of push back again. It's like, oh, okay, like you've got AoE for that as well, so I have to start making ghosts, which
he's got ghosts. He had like 5 ghosts at home. I think he's about to have 8 ghosts in total. Yeah. So he's going to have tons of EMPs to blanket that army. Archons, of course, the priority target, but even if you blanket on those Zealots, it's going to make a Protoss want to step back pretty quickly.
Yeah, and they're pretty much even on upgrades as well at this point, though I'm sure 3-3 is going to be very, very quickly on the way for Classic. So not a bad position at all for Cure.
Yeah, both players getting +3 right now, +2 about to finish in armor, I believe, for Cure. And Classic hasn't started his +3 armor just yet. Just trying to give you guys like all the information. We are actually going to have an observing PC either potentially later today or tomorrow.
We'll see if they're going to squeeze it in. Like they tried to put it in 2 minutes before we went live, but
we're in our little caster capsule in here.
It is pretty cool in here. It's really zoned off from everything else.
So there's a problem with Classic's monitor. Maybe the refresh rate, or maybe it's flickering or something. So we're actually going to go back about 20 seconds in the game, as it happened for about that long.
Wow.
They've determined. So
well, we're going to have to wait and see if that's going to be during the fight, before the fight? Oh, just after the fight.
I think just after the fight. I hope so anyways.
I guess he would have missed out a few macro steps if if it was actually like a problem where he can't see the game or
No,
something.
I will tell you guys, Kesper referees are super legit, very attentive. So I guarantee you, the referee that was standing behind him was probably waiting for him to raise and ask for a pause the entire time.
Yeah.
So he could look and make the assessment. Yeah, I noticed the monitor was acting weird for about 20 seconds. So he could probably make that assessment and say, okay, we need to go back. And if it was right after the fight, if it was during that period of 20 seconds, like the aftermath of the fight, I think it's pretty fair to go back in time because not that much changed during that moment.
It would just be his macro, I guess, more than anything else.
Making sure he hits his upgrades and gets those chronos.
Yeah, so not a bad idea there, not a bad call at all. I mean, it's still a pretty even game so far.
So we're going into right after the battle, and we're going to jump in just a moment, I believe.
Very shortly.
Very shortly, in just a second. Korean commentators haven't jumped back into the game yet either, so we'll be joining in just a minute. But I think this is one of those moments where better safe than sorry. Raise your hand, get the pause, go back in time, just make sure everything's okay. Make sure the monitor's plugged in, there's no more flickering or whatever was happening.
Wolf, do you think he might pull at the SCVs with his next attack?
I think there's a possibility. He's got a lot of ghosts, but because he's posturing at the fourth base and adding turrets, I saw him add a few turrets there. I think even a center tower was going up right like at the last second we saw before the pause. I think he's actually planning on taking that fourth base and getting 3-3 and playing the late game, maybe even adding planetaries and going all the way.
It's very stylistic. A lot of different Terrans. Some choose to do it, some choose not to do it at all. So I wish we got to see like his games against Deer and Younghwa so we can have more of an idea of his style in recent times. So he could always do it, he could never do it. I mean, Bomber, granted, like will always do it sort of thing. And like
Innovation will pretty much always do it as well.
Yeah, there's players that'll just love it.
And then players like MMA, like stylistically in the past, have almost never done it. Until more recent times. So, just it's all about the style. If you feel like you're really good in the late game, you feel like you can really kind of hold on, defend, get the 3-3 up, and actually fight all that AOE. Fight a Protoss who's got both forms of AOE, and make sure your Viking ratio is perfect. Make sure your Ghost ratio is perfect. It's really hard matchup.
Take great positioning. Like, you can do a lot of things with both races. It all comes down to a positional battle. Like when it gets to the late game, like this, because it's going to be feedback versus snipe versus Storm versus like
versus Viking
EMP
positioning
versus
over the
Vikings
cliffs.
versus Blink Stalkers and Storms. It's like so many different things going on. And while that's all happening, there's drops and warp-ins to defend the drops and warp-ins to run by into the
warp-ins into the main base, perhaps with the warp prism.
So there's a lot of different positioning and counterattacking and poking and whatnot until someone gets an advantage and finds a good engagement and good AOE.
I love this matchup in the late game.
It's very, very technical, very, very fun positional sort of battle.
And I love when Terran says, you know what? I'm going to do the macro game. I'm going to make that fourth base. I'm going to put turrets up, and we're going to go all the way because it actually takes a lot of courage, a lot of bravery to fight a Protoss in the late game because of how much management you have to do with your units and your unit composition because you can't make too many Vikings.
Yeah.
You can't make too many Ghosts. You always have to be watchful. You always have to be scanning or at least having some units sending 1 or 2 Marines forward saying, are you still making Colossi? Okay, I got to increase my Viking counter. Oh, wow, he's only got 2 Colossi, but he's got a ton of Archons and a ton of High Templar. Need to make more Ghosts. Need to focus my production on that.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, it's probably the fact that he sees the Archons really deters him from pulling the SCVs. But it's like, oh, if you have Storm, it's almost pointless. Granted, I mean, I guess he would be wasting Storms on SCVs, and you do free up some supply, but...
well, even if you don't Storm, the Archons are going to make pretty quick work of those. If you EMP all the Archons, the SCV's probably still not going to kill them in time. They're still just going to go down immediately. They tank a little bit, for sure.
They'll take a little bit, maybe take a couple of Storms, but...
yeah, I think
probably not worth it at this point of the game.
Yeah, we're past that window, I think, of that pull the boys. So, obviously, for those of you guys who haven't ever had a recover from replay or resume from replay happen, the entire game has to be loaded, and the replay has to be, like, seeked through to that moment. So that's why we kind of have this long downtime here.
Take some time.
But while we're here, why don't we talk about this new tournament? Spread the word. There's a bunch of different streams. I tweeted them out earlier. There's an Azubu stream, and there's this stream. And I'm not certain if there's an English YouTube stream, but I know there's a Korean one. And
they used to be for Pro League at the very least.
Right, and I think that's definitely still going to be the case for Pro League. But get on Twitch, follow the stream. Get on Twitter, follow 2 of us. I'm ProxyWolf, he's Moonglade AU. And spread the word about this tournament. This is just day 1. We've got so many more days of content. Scarlet is playing tomorrow. Taja is playing later on tonight. And it's going to be an exciting tournament, man. It's just the beginning. We're going to have 3 seasons.
It's already so exciting, Wolf. I mean, it's so much StarCraft lined up for this year, at the end of this year and next year. It's going to be some great times ahead for StarCraft.
Yep. So just because this is a new Twitch channel, really, really strongly advise you guys to spread the word. Tell people to follow the channel. I know a lot of you guys already follow the Pro League channel. and Pro League will be starting very, very soon, so get hyped for that. But go ahead and follow the channel, tell your friends to follow, etc., etc., spread the word, because I think a lot of people were confused today about where the stream was going to be. I was originally informed that it was going to be at 3 p.m., but it was 4 hours later, so it's going to be at 7 p.m. tomorrow as well.
7 p.m. KST.
Just keep reminding everybody this is happening, because I know some people are probably like, oh, it's probably 3 p.m. every day, but they didn't watch today. They didn't see that time has changed from what they originally thought, so... it's kind of your guys' job as a community and the viewers going to get out there and spread that word, tell your friends.
Well, I guess the final day is going to be at 3 p.m.
Yeah, the very end, that's going to be a ways down. I think that's on the 26th.
Okay.
So, yeah, that one's going to have like 2 broadcasts on that day, one at 3 and then one at 6:30.
Wow, it's going to be a big day.
It's going to be a big day, man. All right, we are starting 17 minutes and 50 seconds into this game, guys. It's back up and loaded, I believe. I'm actually just saying that without knowing. Okay. All right, here we go. It's happening. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, 17:15, so a little bit earlier than I thought.
So, not too bad. We do see some pylons being put down ahead for Kua. So, Kua thinks, for Classic. Classic thinks he might have a window after that fight. Obviously, losing all those Vikings is going to help out a lot. For the Colossi that remain, or that have just been built for Classic. Also, adding a second robotics facility. So he can rebuild them a lot quicker.
There goes down that observer. That turret, really well placed. Bit of a zealot run by just like you were talking about earlier. And both players getting their second +3 upgrade a little bit faster this time. Just right on the money with that. Planetary, like I said, you know, when you get to the late game, it just makes defending zealots basically a no-brainer. You don't even have to look at it. It's just going to die to the planetary. You got to pull your SCVs away from the targeted zealots. But otherwise, the planetary is going to do most of the work, buy time for your bio to clean up the rest.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he didn't kill that debris, actually. So they can't run by into the natural or the main. They have to go all the way around into the third base.
It's just not going to happen.
Pretty much where the bio is, where the bio is rallied when they are built. So it's not a bad positioning at all for Kua.
Double Colossus production. Storm not quite done yet, but it's almost done. We have a big Warp Prism drop coming in here. He's got plenty of freed up supply. He could warp in 6 more Zealots in total, should he choose to really commit to this. Already a turret and waiting, though, so he's going to have to reposition that. Look at that. Double turrets here, and that drop barely escapes. Still, a lot of damage being done. Meanwhile, he's going to force the Terran army to turn around. Big stim, in fact. And look at how he's positioning himself with his army on the east side of the map. He's actually swinging around, preparing to do another attack.
Yeah, staying well away from the middle. He's going to be doing another run-by, looks like to the left. Running into the main base as well, so creating even more disruption while he gets his army into position.
If 2 Zealots can bring a chunk of the army away from where he's about to fight, that's a great thing. All right, Stalker blinks up here for vision, as well as these Colossi.
Ooh, got to be very careful. He doesn't want to fight in a choke like this,
no.
And this gives the Vikings such a great advantage over those Colossi.
Don't get confused. That's not a big green watchtower either. That's just that's a doodad. The Stalker is deadly. All right, big scanner. Do not want to engage there as a Protoss. You could try to pick off a Stalker too, but not only is there that cliff area or that little structure that's going to make it hard for you to blink underneath the Vikings, but there's also line of sight blockers there. You really don't want to take that engagement if you could help it.
Yeah, never ever.
Look at this good targeting on those Zealots.
Ooh,
well, he really is trying to funnel through this point, but I think it's a risky business he's playing with here.
Yeah, he's just really looking for those SCV kills, it looks like, in the back of that third base. But if he gets caught out there, he can lose all his Colossi very easily to the Vikings. There's really no way to deal with them over terrain like that.
A lot of SCVs actually been killed already. It's down to 51.
Wow, 19 died.
Oh! Get some feedback off before he dies at least. But, you know, this is kind of a double-edged sword. You're ahead in army supply, but your economy is weak. You have mules, on the other hand, to help support this.
Yeah, mules really bring it back more than anything else.
But this makes your army a lot stronger. I guess I don't want to say it's a double-edged sword. I want to say there's 2 sides to the coin. Because even though your economy is weak, your army is quite strong.
Yeah.
Ooh! Wow.
Ooh.
Warp Prism died to a turret. Never thought I'd see the day.
Costly mistake there. And I don't think we see any any turrets in that 4th base either. So you know what, DTs at one point could be great. But it looks like Kura's really posturing here, and Classic's kind of in an awkward position.
That he is, but Storm's available here. 2 do go down. 1 really good Storm on those Vikings.
What?
The second one as well.
Now that's a mistake. That is simply overcommitting with the Vikings. There is still 2 Colossi left.
Yep, yeah, they're actually continuing to push here. Good EMP on those sentries, but they've already used their spells. That Immortal on the left side is doing some work, but this Terran army might just be too much with the EMPs. He's just got too many good EMPs. Look at the supply, Moonglade. 156 to 86. He's up 70 supply here. Goes to a lot of damage to light units, and I think those EMPs were just too much. Perhaps he should have been a little bit more patient with that engagement, and there were not a lot of storms hitting that whole bio. It hit the Vikings, but not the bio.
I think it was kind of weird how he positioned his army in half and kind of engaged in two different ways like that. If everything was together, those Vikings would have died a lot faster as well. And instead, we have a really awkward sort of engagement, and Cure, he is up 110 supply.
That he is, and it looks like he's just going to go ahead and push through here and win the game. Killing that robotics. Getting this gas here. He's in a great position to actually just fight these zealots with his ghosts.
Yeah, he has so many ghosts there.
Ton of unused gateways here, just not quite finished. 6 unused warp gates that could have been used to reinforce. Look at the money here for Classic. I mean, he's already taken his hands off the keyboard for a while. I think he's accepted defeat here, but definitely could have had a little bit better of a last stand in these final moments. But Cure will take game number 1. Cloak on those ghosts as well. Last nail in the coffin. GG.
Really impressive play. Great positioning from Cure. And I think it was just a little awkward there for Classic in the end of things. A big Viking commitment, and just couldn't clean him up quick enough. And that was his map as well. That was Classic's map, I believe.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
Next map, Catalina.
Terran map.
Going to do great for Terran. Obviously going to have great dropping potential on this map. Reapers do very well on this map too for scouting. I mean, it has that backdoor sort of entry. So early game. Going to be great for him as well. Some fans in the audience.